the misunderstanding between the police officer and the engineer regarding the intentions of a single mother. It all began one morning when Han, after being introduced to her new job by Tha, woke up early as usual. She carried Tom, her little son, and walked down the familiar street to the wedding dress shop. In her mind, thoughts about her future and the changes in her job were always present, but she didn't let that affect her steps. When she arrived at the shop, Han felt the familiar atmosphere from the elegant wedding dresses hanging around her. She couldn't help but feel a bit excited and curious about the tasks she would be doing. She walked inside, gazing at the dresses with care, then quickly turned her attention to Thu, the shop owner. "Hello, Thu," Han greeted cheerfully. Thursday, busy with another task, only nodded and informed Han that she would be stepping out for a while to take care of some important things. Han understood and didn't want to bother her. She gently placed Tom down in a safe corner of the shop and began her work. As usual, her first task was to clean and organize the products in the store. She wiped down the surfaces, carefully arranged the dresses, and prepared for customers to come in and shop. The peaceful feeling and satisfaction from her work made Han forget the worries and pressures outside. A little later, Thu returned to the shop and began to guide Han more specifically on her tasks. She showed Han how to do bridal makeup and taught her the basic techniques to get familiar with the job. Han listened intently and followed each step, while Thu offered helpful advice. With every lesson, Han felt that she was making progress, and a new sense of confidence began to grow in her heart. She promised herself that, no matter how difficult this job might be, she would always do her best for her future and for Tom. After Thu guided Han through the steps of makeup, she began to introduce the necessary tools that would help Han do her job better. These small yet incredibly important items, such as makeup brushes, powders, and skincare products. Thu didn't forget to compliment Han, saying that she was beautiful and could easily become a makeup expert in the future. Once the makeup was done, Thu continued to choose a stunning wedding dress for Han. She gently draped the dress over Han's body, helping her feel the elegance and grace of the gown. Han looked at herself in the mirror, feeling overwhelmed by the gorgeous beauty of the outfit, but she also couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed by the sudden change. At that moment, Tha, who had been on a business trip, stopped by the shop to check on how Han was doing with her training. When he walked in and saw Han in the wedding dress, he couldn't help but compliment her. "You look really beautiful in this dress." His compliment made Han feel a bit flustered, and she shyly smiled before heading inside to change. She didn't want Than to see her in that dress for too long, as it made her feel a little awkward. Han quickly went into the dressing room, gently took off the wedding dress, and looked out the window. When she saw that Than had left, she dared to step out of the dressing room. She walked over to ask Thu if Than had already gone. Thu smiled and replied, "I think you and Than make a great pair." Han hurriedly responded, "Don't tease me. People will misunderstand." She knew that Than was just her friend and didn't want others to think there was anything more between them. Thu just gave a quiet smile and didn't say anything further, continuing with her work. Though a little shy and embarrassed, Han still felt happy working there. Each passing day, she felt herself growing more confident and mature. In her heart, Her relationship with Tha remained a pure friendship, but she couldn't deny that his compliments warmed her heart and gave her more motivation in her new job. At that moment, Don, a young police officer, was sitting alone in a bar, drinking beer in a gloomy mood. He was recalling the previous day when he had happened to see Han walking into the wedding dress shop with Than. They were laughing and talking happily, looking very content, which made Dan think that they might be trying on wedding dresses. A feeling of discomfort and jealousy rose in his chest. He couldn't imagine that Han had been deceiving him like this. The anger he felt was uncontrollable, and he decided to clarify the situation immediately. Annoyed, Dan grabbed his phone and called Than, demanding that they meet to sort things out. Than received the call, unsure of what was happening, but agreed to meet Dan, thinking it might be a small misunderstanding. When Than arrived, before he could speak, Dan started, his voice sounding strange and unclear, as if he were drunk. "I called you out here to congratulate you and Han," Dan said, his voice hoarse and unable to hide his emotions. Than was surprised and didn't understand what was going on. He quickly responded, "What are you talking about?" "You're drunk." Dan continued, his tone even more bitter. "Congratulations to you and Han. You two are getting married soon, right?" Thang looked at Dan and immediately understood that he was drunk and had probably misunderstood the relationship between him and Han. Thang felt a little uncomfortable because of the misunderstanding, but he didn't want to escalate the situation. Realizing that Dan wasn't in his right state of mind and that everything was just a misunderstanding, he shook his head and didn't want to argue further. "You should rest. I have nothing more to say to you," Than said, then turned and walked toward his car. He didn't want to make the situation more tense and just wanted to leave to avoid anything unpleasant happening. As Than was about to leave, Dan suddenly stood up and blocked his way. He stared directly into Than's eyes, his eyes filled with anger, and asked, "Why is Han lying to me? Why are you two trying on wedding dresses together?" Dan's voice was full of dissatisfaction, as if he could no longer bear the thoughts racing through his mind. Thang was taken aback by Dan's attitude, but remained calm as he explained, "It's just a misunderstanding. Han and I are just friends." But Dan refused to accept the explanation, still not believing what he was hearing. Misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? "I saw with my own eyes that you and Han went into the shop to try on wedding dresses," Dan said, his voice seething with anger. Than began to feel uncomfortable with Dan's attitude, and he looked him squarely in the face and said, "You're crazy. You're drunk." But Dan, unable to keep his composure, suddenly charged at Than. The two of them got into a scuffle, neither willing to back down. Dan seemed to be losing control, while Than tried to dodge his blows. After a brief struggle, Than gained the upper hand. He pushed Dan away, let out a sigh, and said, his voice still frustrated but calmer, "You're crazy. Look at yourself. What makes you think you're worthy of Han?" After speaking, Than said nothing more. He turned and walked toward his car, not looking back at Dan. Dan stood there, breathing heavily, his eyes still filled with rage. He didn't know what to do next, only feeling a sense of confusion about everything that had just happened. Dan had left, leaving Dan standing in the darkness, filled with inner conflict and unsure how to think about Han anymore. At this moment, Han was still unaware of the tense confrontation between Than and Dan. She was at the shop, focused on her work, occasionally getting lost in the stunning wedding dresses and the daily tasks. She had no idea that outside, the misunderstanding between the two men was deepening. Han couldn't have imagined that such a small incident could lead to unexpected consequences, especially since she was simply doing her job. Will the misunderstanding between Than and Dan be resolved? This story is still open-ended, like a mystery with no solution. Everything could change if one of them decided to face the truth, if they chose to clarify everything and end the doubts. But if not, the tension between them could continue to grow, making everything even more complicated. As for Han, if she were to find out about this confrontation, how would she feel? Would she understand Dan's anger? Or would she feel hurt by being dragged into an unnecessary misunderstanding? Could she forgive Tan's words? Or would she feel betrayed by what had happened? It's still too early to know, but one thing is certain. Their relationship will never be as simple as it was before. If Han learns the truth, she will have to face difficult decisions, to explain things clearly to Than, or to decisively keep her distance from both of them. Will the misunderstanding turn into a truth? Or will everything be resolved in an unexpected way that she couldn't anticipate? And then, where will the story go? Will these relationships continue to build, or will they shatter like the pieces of a mirror that can never be whole again? Only time can tell.
Ngay lúc này, Hân vẫn chưa biết gì về cuộc đối chất căng thẳng giữa Thanh và Danh. Cô đang ở tiệm chăm chú với công việc, đôi khi mải mê với những bộ váy cưới lộng lẫy và những công việc hàng ngày. Cô không hay biết rằng ngoài kia, sự hiểu lầm giữa hai người đàn ông đang ngày càng sâu sắc hơn. Hân chẳng thể ngờ rằng chỉ một sự việc nhỏ cũng có thể dẫn đến những hậu quả không mong muốn. Dù cô chỉ đơn giản là làm công việc của mình, liệu sự hiểu lầm giữa Thành và Danh có được giải quyết hay không? Câu chuyện này vẫn còn đang bỏ ngỏ như một bí ẩn chưa có lời giải. Một thứ có thể thay đổi nếu một trong họ quyết định đối diện với sự thật, nếu họ chọn nói rõ mọi thứ và chấm dứt những nghi ngờ. Nhưng nếu không, sự căng thẳng giữa họ có thể tiếp tục kéo dài, khiến mọi chuyện càng thêm phức tạp. Còn Hân, nếu cô biết về cuộc đối chất này, liệu cô sẽ cảm thấy thế nào? Cô sẽ có thể tổn thương sự giận dữ của Danh, hay cô sẽ cảm thấy bị lôi vào một sự hiểu lầm không đáng có? Cô có thể tha thứ cho những lời nói của Thành, hay cô sẽ cảm thấy bị phản bội vì những điều gì đã xảy ra? Mọi chuyện còn quá sớm để biết, nhưng một điều chắc chắn là mối quan hệ của họ không bao giờ đơn giản như trước.